The Great Hall of Kepler Station had seen many historic moments over 3,000 years. Today would be different. Today would be the day everything changed. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat quietly in the human section, while 46 other species argued about mining rights in the outer rim. His uniform was clean and pressed. His face showed no emotion. But inside, his heart was heavy with what he had to do. Lisa Carter leaned over and whispered to him, "The trade numbers are ready, Jake, when you give the word." She had been working on this data for months. Every trade route, every defense agreement, every single way humanity helped keep the galaxy running. Admiral Kyle Roberts sat behind them. The old soldier kept checking his watch. Ships were waiting. Human ships that would soon leave every joint station and shared facility across known space. The biggest withdrawal in galactic history was about to begin. The Vrex delegate Zexthar noticed Jake's silence. The reptilian being had worked with humans for 60 years. They were friends, real friends. "Morrison, you are quiet today. Is something wrong?" Jake looked at his old friend. "We'll talk after the session, Zex." High Arbiter Quintal floated above the center of the room. The ancient being's voice echoed through translators in dozens of languages. "The floor recognizes the human delegation. Ambassador Morrison, you requested to address the forum." Jake stood up slowly. The room fell quiet. Humans rarely spoke during these sessions unless directly asked. They preferred to listen and take notes, to help solve problems quietly. But today was different. "Thank you, High Arbiter." Jake's voice was calm and clear. "I stand before you today to deliver a message from the human colonial government and the Earth Assembly." The room stayed quiet. Even the usual side conversations stopped. After 200 years of membership in this forum, humanity is withdrawing from all galactic agreements and treaties effective immediately. The silence broke like a dam bursting. Shouts erupted from every corner of the hall. Translators worked overtime as 46 species all tried to speak at once. The aquatic delegate from Hydros Prime stood up in his water tank. "This is not possible. The trade agreements." The insectoid hive queen clicked rapidly. "Our colonies depend on human protection." High Arbiter Quintal raised his glowing hands. "Order. Let the human ambassador speak." Jake waited for quiet. His face remained calm. "This decision was not made lightly. For 2 centuries, we have served alongside you. We have protected your trade routes. We have stopped your wars. We have shared our technology and our medicine." Lisa Carter stood and activated a holographic display. Numbers and charts filled the air above their seats. "In the past 50 years alone, human forces have intervened in 143 conflicts. We have stopped 12 wars before they started. We have protected over 6,000 cargo ships from pirates." The room stared at the numbers. Many had never seen them laid out like this. Jake continued. "We have given medical aid to 41 species. We have shared clean energy technology with 37 worlds. We have provided disaster relief to countless planets and stations." Admiral Roberts stood up and added his own display. "Human military forces currently patrol 700 star systems. We maintain peace in sectors where you have ancient enemies. We stop raiders and pirates across 15,000 light-years of space." The ethereal delegate spoke in his haunting voice. "If these numbers are true, then why do you leave us?" Jake's expression finally changed. For just a moment, pain showed in his eyes. "Because we came seeking partners. Instead, we found dependence. We came looking for equals. Instead, we became your guardians." Zexthar stood up quickly. "Morrison, friend, this is not true. We value your partnership." "Do you?" Jake asked quietly. "When did any of you last ask what humanity needed? When did you offer help instead of demanding it? When did you treat us as equals instead of as your private army?" The room fell silent again. The uncomfortable kind of silence. Lisa activated another display. "Last year, humanity requested help with a plague on our colony world of New Austin. 43 species received the request. 0 offered aid. We handled it ourselves, as always." Jake nodded. 3 years ago, raiders attacked our merchant fleet in the Kepler system. We sent emergency calls to every ally. The responses we received were suggestions that we handle it ourselves, which we did. Admiral Roberts pulled up military records. Human soldiers have died protecting your worlds. Human ships have been destroyed defending your trade routes. In return, we receive complaints about our methods and demands for more protection. The Malorian delegate hissed angrily. Humans are strong. It is natural you should protect the weak. Jake turned to face the scaled being. And there it is. You see us as strong, so you believe we owe you protection. You see yourselves as weak, so you believe you owe us nothing. High Arbiter Quintal spoke carefully. Ambassador Morrison, surely we can discuss this. Find a solution. Jake shook his head. We tried discussion for decades. Every time we asked for true partnership, we were told to be patient. Every time we suggested sharing responsibilities, we were told it was easier if humans handled things. Lisa gathered her data displays. As of today, all human trade agreements are void. All defense pacts are canceled. All shared research projects are suspended. Admiral Roberts stood at attention. Human military forces are withdrawing from all non-human systems. Evacuation will be complete within 30 days. The shouting started again. Panic filled voices in dozens of languages. Jake raised his hand for quiet one last time. We did not make this choice in anger. We made it in sadness. For 200 years, we hoped you would grow. We hoped you would become the partners we needed. Instead, you became comfortable with our strength. He looked around the room at faces filled with fear and confusion. Perhaps now you will learn what we learned long ago. Peace is not given. It is earned. Strength is not inherited. It is built. Cooperation is not demanded. It is chosen. Jake picked up his papers and walked toward the exit. Lisa and Admiral Roberts followed. The human delegation was leaving. Zexthar called out desperately, Morrison, where will you go? What will you do? Jake stopped at the door and looked back at his old friend. We will go home, Zex. We will protect our own worlds and our own people. What you do next is your choice to make. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Forum had no human voices to guide them, and for the first time in 200 years, the galaxy was truly on its own. Captain Ben Hayes stared at his communication console in disbelief. 17 distress calls in the past hour, all from ships along the Outer Rim trade routes, all begging for help that would never come. 3 months had passed since the humans left the Forum. 3 months since the galaxy learned what it meant to stand alone. Ben's cargo ship, the New Frontier, sat at the edge of human space. He could see the chaos spreading through his long-range sensors, but his orders were clear. No interference, no rescue missions, no help. Captain, we're getting another emergency. Signal, called out his communications officer, Tony Miller. It's a Vrex merchant vessel. They're under attack by raiders near the Centauri Gate. Ben closed his eyes. He knew that ship. The captain was a friend who had traded with humans for 20 years. A good being with a family waiting at home. Can we reach them in time? Yes, sir. We could be there in 2 hours. Ben's hands gripped his chair. The old Ben would have jumped to hyperspace immediately. The old Ben would have saved those lives, without question. But the new orders were absolute. Humanity was no longer the galaxy's protector. Log the distress call and continue on our current course, Ben said quietly. The words tasted bitter in his mouth. Dr. Amy Walsh watched the news, reports from her research station on the edge of human space. As a specialist in galactic sociology, she had predicted this chaos. But seeing it happen was different from reading about it in theory. The Centauri Trade Compact had collapsed last week. Without human ships protecting the trade routes, pirates had attacked every major shipping lane. Merchant vessels that had traveled safely for decades now moved in fear. The hegemony had started expanding again. The ancient enemy that humans had kept quiet for a century was now taking systems on the Outer Rim. No one could stop them. No one was even trying. Amy pulled up her data files. Before the human withdrawal, galactic conflicts averaged 12 per year. Now, barely 3 months later, 47 wars had started. Small conflicts that human peacekeepers would have stopped in hours now burned across entire star systems. The dependency was deeper than anyone realized. Amy spoke into her recording device. They didn't just rely on human protection. They relied on human presence. The knowledge that humans were watching kept most conflicts from starting at all. On the mining world of Kepler-7, Commander Rick Stone supervised the final shutdown of the Joint Research Facility. Alien scientists and workers stood around watching as humans packed up equipment and sealed off laboratories. Commander Stone, please reconsider, begged Dr. Vellamora, the aquatic scientist who had worked alongside humans for 15 years. The medical research we're doing here could save millions of lives. Rick looked at the alien who had become a friend over the years. I'm sorry, Vel. My orders are to shut down all joint operations. You're free to continue the research on your own. But we don't have the technology. We don't understand the processes. Without human knowledge, people will die. Rick's jaw tightened. That was the point, wasn't it? For too long, other species had let humans do the hard work. They had become observers in their own research projects. Now they would have to learn or watch their people suffer. Then you'll have to figure it out, Rick said. Just like we had to figure it out when we were alone. The Malorian attack on the ethereal colonies came as no surprise to anyone who understood galactic politics. The two species had hated each other for 1,000 years. Only human intervention had kept the peace. General Krex led the Malorian fleet toward the ethereal homeworld with confidence. No human ships would come to stop him. No human diplomats would negotiate a ceasefire. The ethereals were alone, and they were weak. Send a message to the Ethereal Council, Krex ordered. Tell them they have 24 hours to surrender or we will take their worlds by force. The ethereal response came quickly. They begged for mercy. They offered tribute. They promised to stay out of Malorian space forever. All the things they had never had to do when humans protected them. Back on Earth, President Matt Johnson sat in his office reading reports from across the galaxy. Each one told the same story. Chaos, war, suffering, and desperation. Mr. President, said his aide, entering with another stack of communications. We have 47 requests for emergency aid. The Virex are offering us 3 systems in exchange. For protection, the Aquatics are promising to share their ocean technology if we'll stop the hegemony expansion. Johnson looked tired. The decision to withdraw had been necessary, but it wasn't easy to watch the consequences. What's our response? The same as always, sir. We're sorry for their troubles, but humanity is no longer involved in galactic affairs. Johnson nodded slowly. Any word from our people still out there? Captain Hayes reports, seeing the aftermath of the Centauri raids. 17 ships destroyed, over 300 lives lost. All preventable if we had maintained patrols. The president was quiet for a long moment. And the pirates? Still operating freely. No one else has the ships or the training to stop them. On the edge of Rex space, Captain Ben Hayes finally reached his destination. The merchant vessel they had refused to help was gone. Debris floated where it had been, life pods scattered across space, some empty, some containing survivors who had watched their friends die. Ben's crew worked in silence to rescue the survivors. They couldn't save the ship, but they could at least save the people. It was a small mercy in an increasingly merciless galaxy. Zexthar, the old Vrex diplomat, was among the survivors. He looked at Ben with eyes full of pain and understanding. Captain Hayes, Zexthar said weakly, I begin to understand what my friend Morrison meant. We never learned to save ourselves because you always saved us. Ben helped the old diplomat to the medical bay. I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner. You came when you could. That is more than my own people did. Zexthar closed his eyes. Perhaps we needed to learn this lesson. Perhaps we needed to see what the galaxy looks like without human strength, protecting us. As the new frontier jumped to hyperspace with its cargo of survivors, Ben looked back at the debris field. This was just the beginning. The galaxy was learning what it had lost, one disaster at a time, and humanity watched from the safety of their own space, wondering if they had made the right choice, or if they had condemned billions to suffer for the sake of a lesson that might come too late. President Matt Johnson stood at the window of his office on Earth, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and gold. 6 months had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. 6 months of watching the galaxy tear itself apart while desperate aliens begged for help. His secretary knocked and entered. "Mr. President, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet approaching the outer edge of human space." Matt turned from the window. "How massive?" "Over 200 ships, sir. It's the coalition of minor worlds. They're demanding to speak with you." Matt sighed. He had been expecting this. As the galaxy collapsed into chaos, someone was bound to try forcing humanity back into action. "Get me General Kate Phillips on the line." General Phillips appeared, on the holographic display within minutes. Her face was grim. "Mr. President, I'm tracking the coalition fleet. They've set up a blockade around the Proxima system. They're stopping all human traffic. Demands. The usual. They want us to resume our protection duties. They're calling it Restoring Galactic Stability. Prime Minister Ixandra is leading the delegation personally." Matt rubbed his temples. The coalition represented 37 minor species who had relied heavily on human protection. Without it, they were being conquered or destroyed by larger powers. "What's our military response?" "I have the Fifth Fleet, standing by. We could break their blockade in 6 hours without a single human casualty. Their ships are decades behind our technology. Hold position for now. Let me talk to them first." The communication came through an hour later. Prime Minister Ixandra's image filled the screen. The insectoid leader's usual calm was replaced by desperation. "President Johnson, I speak for 37 species facing extinction. You must resume your duties as galactic protectors." Matt kept his voice steady. "We resigned from that role, Prime Minister. We're no longer responsible for galactic security. You cannot simply abandon us. Without human protection, the hegemony has destroyed 6 of our worlds. The Malorians have enslaved 4 more. Pirates raid our shipping lanes daily. I'm sorry for your losses, but this is exactly why we withdrew. You've become dependent on us instead of learning to defend yourselves." Ixandra's mandibles clicked in anger. "We are not warriors like humans. We are peaceful species." "Peace requires strength, Prime Minister. You can't have one without the other." The conversation ended with threats. The coalition would maintain their blockade until humanity resumed its protective duties. They would target human merchant ships. They would cut off all trade with human colonies. Agent Dan Cooper worked in the shadows between star systems, tracking alien intelligence operations. What he found disturbed him more than the open threats. "General Phillips, we have a problem," Dan reported from his stealth ship. "The Ethereals are planning something big. They've been contacting terrorist groups across human space." "What kind of something?" "Infrastructure attacks. They want to damage our power stations, communication networks, shipping facilities, force us to fight back so we'll be drawn into galactic conflicts again." Kate Phillips cursed quietly. "How many groups have they contacted?" "At least 12. Some are saying no, but others are desperate enough to try anything. The aquatics are offering massive bribes to human criminals. The Vreks are threatening to attack our outer colonies. In the neutral zone between human and alien space, former Ambassador Roy Turner met secretly with old friends from the diplomatic corps. Roy had resigned after the withdrawal, unable to watch the galaxy burn. "There has to be another way," Roy said to the small group of human and alien diplomats. "We can find a middle ground." Zexthar, the old Vrex diplomat, shook his head sadly. "My friend, your people made their choice. They will not return unless we prove we can stand on our own." "But you can't stand on your own. That's the problem." "Then we will fall," said Ambassador Teara of the Aquatic Federation, "and perhaps that is what we deserve for becoming weak." Roy pounded the table. "Billions of lives hang in the balance. There has to be compromise." "What compromise?" asked Zexthar. "We offer humans wealth, technology, territory. They want only one thing we cannot give, which is, they want us to become equals, to share the burden of protecting the galaxy. But we are not equals. We are not strong enough." The first attack came 3 days later. Saboteurs destroyed a human communication relay near the Tau Ceti system. The explosion killed 17 human technicians and cut off communications to 6 human colonies. President Johnson's response was swift and decisive. General Phillips, find who did this and stop them. Already on it, Mr. President. Agent Cooper tracked the saboteurs to a hidden base in the asteroid belt. They're being funded by a consortium of alien governments. Funded by whom specifically? The ethereals provided the explosives. The aquatics provided the money. The coalition provided the transportation. Matt felt his anger rising. They're trying to drag us back into their conflicts by attacking us. Directly. It gets worse, sir. Intelligence suggests they're planning attacks on Earth itself. They figure if they can threaten our homeworld, we'll have to respond. The blockade around Proxima had grown stronger. More ships arrived daily as additional species joined the coalition. They were calling it the Restoration Fleet now, claiming they were saving galactic civilization. General Phillips stood before the President's War Council. Mr. President, we can't ignore this anymore. They're attacking our people and threatening our worlds. What are our options? We have 3 choices. First, we can negotiate and agree to resume some protective duties. Second, we can break the blockade by force and show them we won't be intimidated. Third, we can continue to do nothing and see how far they're willing to go. Matt looked around the room at his advisors. Opinions? Secretary of State Linda Brown spoke first. If we negotiate now, we'll be negotiating from weakness. They'll think they can force us to do anything. Defense Secretary Paul Clark nodded. The military option sends a clear message. We're not their puppet anymore. And if we do nothing? Dr. Amy Walsh, attending as a consultant, answered. They'll escalate. Desperate people do desperate things. Eventually, they'll attack Earth or one of our major colonies. Matt made his decision. General Phillips, prepare the fleet. We're going to break their blockade. Yes, sir. What are our rules of engagement? Minimum force necessary. Disable their ships, don't destroy them. We want to send a message, not start a war. And after we break the blockade? Matt looked out the window at the peaceful Earth sky. Soon, that peace would be shattered by the sound of warships launching. After we break the blockade, we show them exactly why they needed our protection in the first place. We show them what human military power looks like when it's not being used to protect them. The Fifth Fleet began moving toward Proxima. 200 human warships against 800 alien vessels. The aliens had numbers, but humans had technology that was decades ahead. As the fleet prepared for battle, one thought echoed through human space. They had tried to leave peacefully. They had tried to let the galaxy learn its lessons without violence. But the galaxy had chosen to make this lesson a hard one, and humanity would teach it properly. Admiral Sam Mitchell watched from the bridge of the USS Liberty as the coalition blockade scattered like leaves in a storm. The battle had lasted exactly 47 minutes. 800 alien ships against 200 human vessels. The result was never in doubt. Damage report, Sam called out to his tactical officer. No human casualties, Admiral. Minimal damage to 3 of our ships. The alien fleet is retreating to the outer system. Sam nodded grimly. The aliens had learned their lesson about trying to force humanity's hand. But the victory felt hollow. These weren't enemies they were fighting. These were former allies driven to desperation. Admiral, we're getting surrender requests from 43 coalition ships. Their engines are disabled. Render assistance to any ship in distress, but do not accept their surrender. We're not at war with them. 1 year had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. The galaxy was burning and the flames were spreading faster than anyone had imagined. Dr. Emma Brooks stood in the Refugee Processing Center on the human colony of New Haven. Thousands of alien refugees crowded the facility, begging for sanctuary in human space. They came from dozens of species, all with the same story. Their worlds were gone. Their people were dying. Only humanity could save them. Please, Dr. Brooks, begged Te'ara, a young ethereal whose homeworld had fallen to the hegemony. My family is trapped on Kepler Prime. The hegemony forces are killing everyone. You have the ships, you have the power. Please help us. Emma felt her heart break. She had children of her own. She understood a parent's desperation. But the orders were clear. No interference in galactic affairs. I'm sorry, Tayara. I wish I could help, but humanity is no longer involved in galactic conflicts. But you could stop this. One human battle group could destroy the hegemony fleet. Emma knew it was true. Human military technology had advanced far beyond what the galaxy remembered. They could end most conflicts with minimal effort. But that wasn't the point anymore. We could stop this one battle, Emma said softly. But then there would be another. And another. And you would never learn to fight for yourselves. Captain Troy Davis stood on the bridge of his ship, the Independence, watching a horrific sight through his view screen. The hegemony was bombarding the civilian population of Arcturus IV. Millions of innocent beings were dying while his ship sat at the edge of the system, doing nothing. Captain, we're receiving distress calls from the planet's surface, reported his communications officer. They're begging for help. Troy's hands gripped his chair. His ship could end this massacre in minutes. His weapons could destroy the hegemony fleet before they knew what hit them. But his orders were absolute. No interference. Sir, the planetary defense forces are putting up a fight, but they won't last long, his tactical officer reported. The hegemony has 50 ships. The defenders have 12. Troy closed his eyes. This was exactly what the aliens had never understood. Every day, human commanders faced choices like this. Every day they had to decide who lived and who died. The burden of being the galaxy's protector was crushing. Captain, there's something else, his science officer said quietly. Long-range sensors are detecting movement in the dark sector. Something big is coming. Troy opened his eyes. How big? I'm not sure, sir. The readings are unusual. But whatever it is, it's heading toward inhabited space. On Earth, President Matt Johnson received the most disturbing intelligence report of his presidency. Agent Dan Cooper stood before him with data that changed everything. Mr. President, we've detected massive energy signatures from the dark sector. Something that's been sleeping for thousands of years is waking up. What kind of something? We call them the Extinction Fleet. Ancient automated warships, older than any current civilization. They're programmed to destroy any spacefaring species they encounter. Matt felt cold dread in his stomach. How many ships? Over 10,000, sir? And they're not like anything we've seen before. Our intelligence suggests they're responsible for wiping out dozens of ancient civilizations. Can they be stopped? Dan hesitated. Maybe. But it would require every spacefaring species working together. The kind of cooperation that hasn't existed since humans withdrew from galactic affairs. Matt sank into his chair. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. They're moving toward the core systems where most galactic civilizations are located. General Kate Phillips entered the room with more bad news. Mr. President, the situation is getting worse. The hegemony has conquered 15 systems in the past month. The Malorians have enslaved 6 species, and now we have reports of something called the Devourers emerging from the galactic rim. The Devourers. Another ancient threat. They consume entire planets, stripping them of all life. Without organized resistance, they're spreading unchecked. Matt looked at the star charts showing the chaos spreading across the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of active warfare. Black zones showed regions where civilizations had already fallen. The safe zones were shrinking daily. How many species have gone extinct since we withdrew? 14 confirmed, Dr. Brooks answered, through video link. Maybe more. We're losing contact with entire sectors. Supreme Overlord Mordak of the hegemony watched the destruction of another world with satisfaction. For 1,000 years, human interference had limited his expansion. Now nothing stood in his way. My lord, his tactical officer reported, the ethereal fleet has been destroyed. Their homeworld is defenseless. Excellent. Begin the bombardment. Leave no survivors. Mordak had learned patience during the long years of human-enforced peace. He had studied human tactics, human technology, human weaknesses. Now he was putting that knowledge to use. "Sir, we're detecting human ships at the edge of the system," the sensor operator reported. Mordak's eyes narrowed. "Are they moving to intercept?" "No, my lord. They're just watching." Mordak laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The humans have grown soft. They watch their former allies die and do nothing. Continue the bombardment." In the depths of space, Captain Troy Davis watched another civilization die. His crew worked in tense silence, knowing they could stop this slaughter but were forbidden to act. "Captain," his communications officer said quietly, "we're getting a message from the Ethereal Council. They're thanking us." "Thanking us? For watching, sir, for bearing witness to their final moments. They say they understand now why we withdrew. They say they're sorry it took their extinction for them to learn." Troy turned away from the view screen. He couldn't watch anymore. The galaxy was learning its lesson, but the price was higher than anyone had imagined. And in the dark spaces between stars, ancient machines stirred to life, preparing to finish what galactic civilization had started on its own. President Matt Johnson stood before the emergency session of the Human Assembly, the weight of an impossible decision on his shoulders. 18 months had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. Now the galaxy faced complete extinction, and only humanity had the power to stop it. "The extinction fleet will reach the core systems in 36 hours, reported Admiral Sam Mitchell via holographic display. 10,000 automated warships, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. No single species can stand against them." Dr. Emma Brooks added her analysis. "Computer models show complete galactic extinction within 6 months if the extinction fleet isn't stopped. Every spacefaring civilization will be wiped out, including humanity eventually." The assembly chamber fell silent. Representatives from every human world and colony struggled with the same question. Could they watch the galaxy die to prove a point? "What about the other species?" asked Representative Carol Stone from New Terra. "Are they trying to fight back?" "Admiral," Mitchell shook his head. "The few surviving fleets are scattered and broken. The Virax have 12 ships left. The Ethereals have 8. The coalition species have maybe 50 ships total between all of them." "And the hegemony?" "Supreme Overlord Mordak is trying to negotiate with the extinction fleet. He thinks he can control them or join them. Our intelligence suggests the ancient machines will simply destroy him like everyone else." Jake Morrison, the former ambassador, who had announced humanity's withdrawal, stood to address the assembly. His face showed the strain of watching the galaxy burn for 18 months. "I was the one who recommended our withdrawal," Jake said quietly. "I believed the galaxy needed to learn independence. I still believe that was right. But I never intended for billions to die while they learned." He paused, looking around the chamber at faces filled with doubt and pain. "The question before us isn't whether we were right to leave. The question is whether we can live with ourselves if we let everyone die to prove our point." High Arbiter Quintal appeared on the communication screen, his ancient form barely visible. Through the static, the ethereal homeworld was under attack, his people nearly extinct. "President Johnson," Quintal said weakly, "I speak for what remains of galactic civilization. We have learned our lesson. We understand now what our dependence cost us all." Matt leaned forward. "What are you asking, High Arbiter?" "We are not asking you to return as our protectors. We are asking you to lead us in this final battle. Not as our guardians, but as our generals. We will fight beside you as equals, or we will die as equals." The transmission flickered and died. Quintal's world had fallen to the extinction fleet. "Admiral," Mitchell updated his tactical display. "Mr. President, we have a narrow window of opportunity. If we move now, we can intercept the extinction fleet before they reach the heavily populated core systems. What would it take to stop them? Every human ship we have, plus whatever alien vessels remain. The battle would be brutal. We'd take heavy casualties even with our technological advantage." General Kate Phillips added her assessment. "The aliens are right about one thing. This isn't about protecting them anymore. The extinction fleet won't stop with alien worlds. They'll come for us eventually. Representative Tom Wilson from the outer colonies spoke up. So we're fighting for our own survival now, not theirs? Both, said Dr. Brooks. If we let galactic civilization collapse completely, humanity becomes isolated, alone. Eventually, threats like this will overwhelm us too. Matt felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. What guarantees do we have that things will be different this time? He asked. How do we know they won't? Just go back to depending on us after we save them? Jake Morrison smiled sadly. We don't. But maybe that's not the point anymore. Maybe the point is that we save them because it's right, not because they deserve it. The vote was called. Representatives from across human space made their choice. The margin was narrow, but clear. Humanity would return to galactic affairs, but on their own terms. Admiral Mitchell received his orders within the hour. All human fleets are to rendezvous at the Kepler Nexus. We're going to make our stand there. What about the alien survivors? Any ship that can fight is welcome to join us, but they follow human command structure. No arguments, no debate. We're not negotiating battle plans in the middle of a war. The response from the surviving alien fleets was immediate. Every remaining ship in the galaxy began moving toward the Kepler Nexus. Vrex destroyers flew alongside ethereal cruisers. Aquatic submarines moved through space next to insectoid fighters. Captain Troy Davis stood on the bridge of the Independence as the combined fleet assembled. Over 300 human ships formed the core of the formation. Around them, barely 100 alien vessels took their positions. It's not much of a fleet, his tactical officer observed. It's what we have, Troy replied. And it's more than any of us expected 6 months ago. The extinction fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark tide. 10,000 ships, each one a nightmare of ancient technology and programmed hatred for all life. Admiral Mitchell's voice echoed across the combined. All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell. Today we fight not as humans and aliens, but as representatives of life itself. The machines ahead of us know only destruction. We know hope. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships danced through space with impossible grace, their weapons tearing through ancient armor. Alien vessels fought with desperate courage, knowing this was their last chance at redemption. Captain Troy Davis watched as the Vrex ship defender rammed an extinction fleet destroyer, saving a human frigate. The alien crew died as heroes, finally understanding what sacrifice meant. The tide turned when Jake Morrison, commanding a diplomatic vessel, broke through the extinction fleet's formation and transmitted a shutdown code recovered from ancient archives. Half the enemy fleet simply stopped, their programming overridden by words spoken in a language dead for millennia. When the battle ended, wreckage floated where the extinction fleet had been. The combined casualties were heavy. 30% of the human fleet was gone. Most of the alien ships had been destroyed, but life had won. Jake Morrison stood before the emergency session of the reformed Galactic Council. The chamber was smaller now, representing the species that had survived, but it felt different. There was respect here, understanding. We return to galactic affairs, Jake announced, but not as we were before. Humanity will lead the new council. Our military will command joint operations. Our voice will have final authority in matters of galactic security. Prime Minister Exandra, representing the coalition survivors, nodded slowly. We accept these terms. We have learned the price of freedom and the value of strength. Jake looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had watched their civilizations burn and had fought to rebuild them. We did not abandon you to be cruel, he said. We abandoned you so you could learn what we have always known. That peace is not a gift, but a responsibility. That freedom must be earned every day. That strength without wisdom leads to tyranny, but wisdom without strength leads to extinction. The new age had begun. Humanity would lead, but no longer carry the burden alone. The galaxy had learned its lesson in blood and fire, and perhaps that was the only way it ever could have learned it.